right, hey everybody, welcome to another weekly webinar here at Route Consultant focused on the emergency medical services space. If you've never been here to one of these, my name is Josh Gregory. I'm the Vice President of Education here at Route Consultant. That just means I really lead the teams here that are focused on both training our teams internally and helping all of you as new buyers looking to get into the space, or as current contractors trying to find better ways to run and optimize what you're already doing. And really, these webinars are just going to continue to be a place to come to learn. You can ask questions, whether it's something about the industry as a whole or anything that we talk about today, and really just to help you find the best way to accelerate your journey into the industry and the space. Now, format-wise for today, if you've never been here, we'll go over some content. We'll go over some things that are new, some things that we want to teach you about the space. And then if there are any questions, we'll leave that open at the end to make sure that we have time for all of that. And again, if you are here live and you do have any of those questions, go ahead and put it in the Q&A button at the bottom. And you can do it at any time, whenever I'm talking right now, or when Hans and I are on later, or when we open it up for questions, you can enter them at any time. But like I said, if you put it in the Q&A button, it has the highest chance that I'll see it. If you put it in another place, like in the chat, or you raise your hand, I'll still see it, but it might take me longer. So if you want your question answered, make sure you put it in the Q&A. Now, a quick update on this space that if you're following and tracking anything that's happening here, you might have seen it before we get to the content, is that there is AMR is one of the largest ambulance companies in the country with a large variety of services, but they actually just got purchased or there's the intent to acquire for $2.4 billion. So just as an example, one of how large you can get, but also just how large this industry is. There are hundreds of these companies in every state across the country, but that's an example of how large just one can get and the type of volume, the type of revenue that this space offers. And really, it's just an untapped opportunity for a lot of people. So that's just a quick note that came out this morning to highlight kind of what we're seeing in this space and what the potential is. Now, content-wise for this week, what we wanted to talk about, if you were here last week, we really focused on how to hire and retain drivers in this space. But we're going to come back and dig a little bit deeper on the people side of this and really the qualifications for the drivers and the certifications that you have to take, and make sure that we're going to spend today to make it really clear what the process is of that certification and the training and all the different answers and details on it. So Hans Fakir and I will be back on to talk through it all. Again, if you have not met Hans before, today's your lucky day. He has a long history in this industry, operating these businesses, owning them, and helping others take the right steps to get into this space for the first time. So Hans, if you want to go ahead and come on, I will go ahead and let us get started.
Hello.
Hey, Hans.
What's going on? I'm happy to be back again. I'm getting great news, and of course, excited about that $2.4 billion purchase. And
Yep.
this was a company, if people look at the history of AMR, they started years ago. And again, like the average ambulance company, probably only started with one ambulance, built several locations throughout the country. I think we saw 46 states that they were in, plus the District of Columbia, and they were bought out or is in the process of being acquired for 2.4 billion.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
just gets me excited.
It should. Yeah. Anytime you see a multi-billion-dollar acquisition in your space, that's just a validation of the value of what's there now and the potential. And that should always be exciting as an investor looking to get in the space, or as a current operator thinking about what it's worth and what it could be worth. It's always should be exciting.
I'm like the quarterback. Oh, what did that quarterback get? That
Yeah,
contract? Oh,
exactly.
okay.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
Okay, perfect. So let's kind of get into what we're going to talk about today. So I know we've briefly touched on some of these topics before, but like I said, I really wanted to dig into it. So as we know in this space, you have to have some level of certification. You can't just come in with no background here. So what are the kind of the basic types of certifications that, what's kind of the minimum requirement, and then what are the different options of kind of EMT certification there?
and just for everybody listening, uh, and Josh is saying that from a perspective of somebody who wants to get on the truck. I
Mhm.
want to reiterate, if you are starting this business or you want to acquire one, you don't need any certification. So I just wanted to make that clear for people like you and I. You know, we have plenty of mentees that used to be truck drivers, right? And now they're getting into this space because they're still in the transportation business. We're just transporting people. But like you said, yes, there are different levels of uh, certifications that your employees will need to have, and you, if you want to become an actual owner operator. And one of those things are your basic EMRs. That's a 2 week course, or in some states like New Jersey, it's a 1 week course, right? Where you're allowed to, and in Philadelphia, you're allowed to, Pennsylvania, you're allowed to get on that truck only as a driver only, right? Some states call them EVOs. Some states might call them EMRs, and they're only allowed to drive on the back, front. They're not allowed to drive in the back with the patient or sit in the back with the patient. But that helps as well, right? To make sure that you have a certified person on your ambulance. The next level up would be an EMTB, which is a basic. That's usually a 3 month course, and some places only require you to go to the course or the class 2 nights a week. Then you have your EMTA. That could be a 6 month course, which is a EMT advanced, right? And those courses can go 6 months to 9 months. And then you have the higher level, which is a paramedic. And that course can range from a year, year and a half. Every state varies on their criteria, or every institution will vary on how they roll out their EMS program.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as a company, you need to obtain an EMS license. So we're looking at EMS, which is emergency medical service. So your service has to have its particular license, and every individual will be an EMT, EMTB, or and a paramedic, which is higher, right? And for those of you that are in the healthcare industry and you're familiar with the nursing industry of this, let's say that it's very uh, it resembles the nursing structure, right? Where you would say that a CNA, which is a certified nursing assistant, bottom of the total O, is equivalent to your EMR and EMTB, right? And then your LPN, which is a licensed practice nurse, is equivalent to your EMTA, which is advanced. And then your medic would be equivalent to your RN. And I hope that helps, because that's been the best way that I can associate it. And I make it make sense to people that are in the hospital setting. And they go, oh, okay, now I see how the different levels play off of each other.
Yeah, and there's probably more of us that have family members, on that side, or friends who are in the kind of the medical space that have seen this EMT space. So sometimes that can work for even, just an investor mindset. Now,
Yes.
we talked kind of about how there's the minimum requirements. Have you seen, or have you ever gone through the process of having your drivers go all the way up to a paramedic level? Like, are there any advantages of kind of going for that high of a certification?
Yes, and great question, Josh. You find a need, provide the service, right? So in Georgia, there are a lot of events, and most city ordinance will require you to have an ALS truck. So if you are interested in acquiring a business that has contracts with certain parks, movie sets, a lot of times they will require you to have an ALS truck, which means advanced life support. And in every ALS truck, you are required to have a paramedic, because you are going to have different medication that are on those vehicles. You might have not an AED, but an actual 12 lead. So those are some of the equipments that's required for you to turn your BLS truck to an ALS truck in most states. And then the other requirement for you to do that is to have paramedics to ride with those EMTs as well. So that's the requirement. Of course, what I do a lot is BLS, but if the opportunity presents itself, and I have done ALS in the past because we had a contract with the Marvels movies, and we were doing all of the Marvel movies, but we needed to turn our truck into a ALS truck, and we needed a paramedic on there.
Got it. So it's not a requirement, but there's different revenue streams you may be able to open up for yourself if you have someone who has that kind of higher level of certification.
Yes, and also if you are interested in doing 911 dispatch. So again, we referenced AMR. And so a lot of times companies like AMR that have these big city contracts, they'll look for the smaller ambulance companies to run backup, right? So if you want that opportunity to possibly run backup for one of the bigger companies, then having your ALS just adds to your resume when you submit it to them, and let them know that what you're capable of doing. Also, keep in mind though, is that we want to pay attention to the disaster relief. So when you and AMR was actually the company that had that contract. So we don't know as we're speaking who's going to acquire that contract, which is huge, right? So you look at guys, when you have an ambulance company and maybe you have one ambulance that is your ALS truck, well, put that ambulance on the list of AMR's disaster program, and they'll call you and you can make upwards $250 an hour. And that will be the benefit of getting a higher license for that truck and having people that are not just EMTs, medics, to go on those disaster calls. And, that's big money right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it can really open the door, even if they're, 90% of the time or 95% of the time, they're doing kind of the normal non-emergency deliveries and picking up patients like that and fit just kind of your normal business plan. If you've even got one, it just opens up options where maybe you can sign up for those contracts that are really lucrative. They're just not happening all the time. Hopefully
Yeah.
not. Hopefully we're not consistently getting disaster level priorities where we have to send people across the country.
And
Uh,
and those And I'm sorry, those are really great because one thing, and I guess we'll do another webinar on how to get contracts for those, disaster situations, hurricanes, flooding. And again, we talked about it a little. I think the average person, and I'm going to confirm with the AMR reps, makes between $200 $250 from the time that your truck actually leaves your station and you have to go across the country, and it's a 9 hour drive, then you are getting paid while you're going. And I have a video that I want to send you, Josh, that it's super amazing. And all it is trucks that are lined up and they're on the side of the road to do the disaster relief. And it's an amazing video. And 90% of these trucks that are on the side of the road waiting to do these calls, they're private owned. I don't think anyone in this video that I'm going to send you was an AMR truck. They were all individual owned for the most part. And you are working hand in hand with the fire department. But again, fire departments don't have this is actually a key point. Fire departments do not have some of them don't have the leverage or the capacity to send because they're busy taking care of stuff
yeah.
in their local, state.
Yeah.
So
You send
again,
all the firefighters out of the area and there's a fire, then there's nothing for you. Yeah. So, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's actually great. And I'm gonna send you that video because it's huge. And all you see is a line of trucks on the expressway waiting to get deployed,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
waiting for their assignment.
Yeah. So we can get that out later too, that video. Now remind me too. So you mentioned the kind of the EMT levels. Can you talk a little bit about what the process is on the EMS certification for your business?
Yeah, definitely. So the first thing that anyone wants to do really is the basic thing is coming up with a name, right? Making sure that you incorporate the name, whether you want to speak to your tax advisor or your accountant to see whether you want to start an LLC, an S corp, or C corp, basic stuff like that, right? And then of course you want to get your EIN. For most business owners, they know what an EIN is. And then we start working with the NPI, which starts your National Provider Identification Number, and that helps you get into the process of creating an account with Medicare, Medicaid, and all your billing insurance companies. Right now, every state varies with what their process requires. But the basic thing is you're going to get an office space and you're going to start buying trucks, right? And then you're going to find out what are the policy and procedures that that particular state requires. You know that you're going to have to fill out an initial application, right? Which is going to ask for your basic information, social, where the company is located, basically your business address, all business information that's going to be pertinent to, your company. It's going to be what you're going to need that to fill out the application. And then after that, it's really submitting the documents that they require, whether it's an infectious disease protocol, basic life support protocol, whatever the license that you're trying to obtain, whether it's ALS or BLS, they're going to have a list of things that you need to submit. And of course, those are the things that we can help them with because we have, for the most part, master copies of for every state, right? So, for instance, Josh, if you said, "Hey, Hans, I want to open up in Nashville," we're going to go into the Nashville Department of EMS and see what's required, and we're going to submit those as we go along, right? So, a lot of people are going to need their infectious disease. They're going to need a medical director. Some states require you to have a pharmacist, right? Some states are going to require you to have BLS protocols and just your ordinary operations. for your business, your SOPs for your business. And then after that, once you've submitted all the documents that they've asked for, you're going to have a regional director or an inspector come to your office. They're going to look at your office, but they're not really going to, there's not a pass or fail with the office. They just want to make sure that you are in an actual commercial building. And then they're going to inspect the main thing, your truck. They're going to make sure that all the your truck is up to par. All the supplies that are required are on your truck. Because keep in mind, guys, again, even though we are running BLS, the state is going to hold us to the same standards, right? That's why we get paid the big bucks because we have a very big responsibility on our shoulders.
Mm.
Okay, so they're going to check every bit of equipment that you have on there. They're going to check the expiration dates on everything. They're going to make sure that your AED and your blood pressure cuffs are functioning correctly, right? They're going to make sure that your turning signals are working, the tread on your tires are good enough. Your sirens working. Certain states require you to have a certain type of radio system, so a dispatching system. So after you submitted all your paperwork and the state approves the paperwork, they're going to send somebody to submit your to check your truck off. And usually, once you check your truck off, they put a sticker on your truck, and you are licensed to start running at that very moment.
Got it. Now, there's that process. Let's say you're operating in Georgia, but there are some patients maybe right across a state line. Are you required to kind of go through that whole process again with that next state over, or is it, you've been licensed and approved in the state you're in, and that's all it is? Or if you're ever going outside the state to pick up a patient, you got to be licensed in that state as well.
No, you don't have to be licensed in that state if you are picking up a patient in that state and you're going to another state or you're going back to Georgia. But
Okay.
if you're doing interstate transport, then yes, if you're picking up a patient from, one part of Nashville and taking them to another part, I can't do that if I'm licensed only in Georgia. But I can pick up somebody in Nashville and bring them back to Georgia or even drop them off in South Carolina, another state. But you can't operate and do the A trip, which is picking somebody up, and the B trip in that state unless you're licensed in that state. But
Got
last year, I picked up a patient in Brooklyn, New York. They paid me $8,500 to pick up a young lady who was passing away of cancer. Her parents wanted her to be at their bedside in South Carolina. So it was an overnight trip. We made $8,500 in one day. Picked her up in from Mount Sinai Hospital in Brooklyn, dropped her off the same morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. We just picked her up, put her in the ambulance, drove to South Carolina because we didn't know how much time she had left. Her sister, who was a nurse, and her mom was a nurse, was able to get on the ambulance with us and sit in the back with her to comfort her. We made it home, or we made it to her parents' house, and her father called me the very next day, was very thankful. She passed away, I think the next day or 2 days later. So, but we were, just to answer your question, we were able to do that because we still can operate in other states.
it. Okay.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to tie a story to it to make it
Yeah, no,
touch
that's, I
home.
mean, it does. I mean, that's being able to provide that type of service for somebody in one of the most dire situations and a time where they might not have had any other option. It's not like you can call a taxi that's gonna it's gonna be good enough
Yeah,
to get your daughter there and keep her healthy and happy on that drive. So,
yeah,
um, but that definitely does also answer kind of the question of at the end of the day, you got to know where the patient is being delivered to, and that's going to dictate a lot of your certification requirements for your company.
yeah. And that will also help with the question that you had before about the type of levels that you want to apply for. So again, guys, if you want to apply for a paramedic, I couldn't have taken that trip, being that we knew the young lady was going to pass without having an ALS truck,
Yeah,
right? So it benefits you again in certain areas where you can now, you don't have to turn down opportunities that are beneficial to, your revenue.
yeah. Now we talked about the different levels of certification. Are there any basic requirements to be able to even start that training that somebody has to have, around their age or any kind of education before that?
No, and the basic level of EMT, like we said, the EVO or the EMR, it's really CPR class and a BLS class. So prime example, Pennsylvania has that exact class and it's only a 48-hour class.
Okay.
So right now we have a mentee that's going to take the 48-hour. It's a EVO class, which is equivalent to the EMR class. And this all started during COVID because there was such a shortage of first responders, and that's what we are. We are first responders. So the state was like, "Hey, we don't have." The country was like, "Hey, we don't have time to put people through a 6-month class. We need these companies to still be operational." And so let's help them, with their staffing shortage by creating an EMR program and just limiting that employee to driving the ambulance and not actually doing hands-on patient care, right? So
Yeah.
those are the type of things. There's really no requirements. Um, and again, you want to make sure that you're just for your insurance records, for your peace of mind, you want to make sure that your employee has a good driving record, right? If that's all that you're going to hire for is to be a driver only, then yeah, I'm going to make sure that he doesn't have a bad driving history.
Yeah. What about background checks? Is there anything there that would invalidate you from taking the class or being certified?
Yeah, everything it really depends on the state level, right? You can have a misdemeanor. I would stay away from hiring anyone who has a felony, of course. But states have different laws, and I've seen people on ambulance companies that are EMTs, and you can get people like, for instance, when I was a firefighter, you're not going to get hired, right? As a with a felony, right? But there were people that went through the fire academy and became EMTs and still have jobs now, right? So I think that's really on a case by case scenario. But no, in most states, it doesn't matter. You just, for reputation wise, liability.
Yeah.
I just make sure that everybody that I hire have a has a clean record. But for the most part, you should be fine. There's nothing that's going to deter you because again, the state's going to license you. It's really at the owner's discretion if they want to hire you
Got it.
with your background.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you have a felony, you can still go and become an EMT. You could even be a paramedic.
Okay. Got it. Now these classes, where are they typically held? Like, how do you find where to take these classes?
Technical schools are huge. Every state has a technical school. Every state has a fire college that teaches EMTs or paramedic school. Some colleges have that. So you have three sources. You have, of course, the fire department, but nobody's trying to become a firefighter, right? But sometimes fire departments will have EMT schools that are not only for their firefighters, but for outsiders as well. So that's a good place to search. Technical schools within your community. Every state has a technical school teaching EMT because every state has fire department, right? So you want to go to a technical school or your local college. A lot of local colleges are now adopting an EMS program.
Got it. Okay. And then talk to me a little bit about, is this a thing where you have to do it every day of the week? Are there weekend or night options? What does that look like?
Some schools have online courses where you only have to come in to do your practical, and that's like your actual hands-on CPR or hands-on BLS. Some schools are just 2 nights a week if you're doing the the BLS EMT basic program or the medic program. So a lot of that varies on the school. You just have to find the right course that fits your schedule. But for the most part, I have not seen outside of the fire department a school that you have to go 5 days a week. Usually, the EMT programs, the paramedic programs are geared for adults that have families, and you usually have to go only 2 days, 2 nights a week, maybe 2 days a week. One of my mentees in South Carolina, his class starts in April, and he has to go 3 days a week
Okay.
at night. So he still can run your company, and you can still pick up your EMT courses at night. And in 3 months, you're going to be done.
Okay. That makes sense. Now, how much do those typically cost?
I've seen EMS programs run from $800 to 1,500, all the way up to 2,500, depending on the certification you're getting, right? The EMR program, I've seen it as cheap as $750.
Okay.
The EMT basic program, I've seen it to $1,100 to $1,200, and that's only 2 nights a week. And then the paramedic program, I've seen it for $2,500. And uh, just to go off of that, some of these programs do have financial aid as well.
Okay. Great. And it's just based on need.
Yep.
Okay. Great.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think just as a last kind of thought here, we talk about how you want to have all of your people trained. Have you ever seen anybody or thought through kind of the process of if somebody wanted to, have one of their employees certified as a trainer and then train all the future employees? Have you ever seen anything like that? Is that even possible?
It's very possible and it's very smart, right? Don't fight with all the people that's on Indeed soliciting for employees. Look, create a farm system, get one of your employees that are already EMT or medic, or you know what's actually even easier? Hire a firefighter that's already a medic and just make sure that they reach the qualifications, become a medic instructor. So it's going to be easier for a paramedic to become a EMT instructor, right? And guess what? Now that you have an employee that you've hired to be an instructor, what you can actually get that same employee to get on your ambulance, and you can now hire people from Indeed that have no certifications.
Hmm.
And now you can recoup the funds that you would spend for their school, by, you know, uh, what when you take the money back from their paycheck. I'm kind of getting
Yeah.
tongue tied real quick. Employee reimbursement program. So I've seen that. That's something I wanted to do. That's definitely ingenious. That's again what we call the hybrid. You're hiring a paramedic that can not only get on the truck, but actually can create more employees for you. And now you have loyalty because you have employees that are signed in a contract to stay with you for maybe a year or two to repay back whatever you charged them for the EMS program.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a very smart suggestion.
okay. So possible path for people out there.
Yes.
Kind of a tangential question there too. How often did you offer an incentive to anybody of, hey, I know you don't have your EMT, but if you come on, I'll pay for your training. Like, have you ever done something like that?
All the time because there's so many people that are even, and this is the crazy thing, there are so many people that have degrees
Mhm.
that are trying to figure out what to do. There are so many people that are just wanting to get in healthcare, what they think that you need a degree, right? Even true story, when I was a firefighter and I played basketball and I try to recruit some of the younger guys that play basketball just recreational, and they would always ask, well, don't I have to go to college? I'm like, no, I can put you through this school. So there's a younger generation. I know a lot of the younger generation are on social media and they're entrepreneurs now, but there are a lot of them that are looking to get into healthcare. They're just fearful. So introducing that to people is very great because you're going to buy loyalty and you're going to get a lot of young people that are enthusiastic about getting into a career that they can actually drive an ambulance. It just comes with a level of importance. And if I could put that level of importance in someone that didn't know that they could do this, there's such a loyalty factor that comes with that. So, yes, I've done that, and it's always been successful for me. Out of four to five people, probably one out of yeah, there's probably only one person that it didn't really work out. It wasn't for them. But usually, out of five, there's always going to be four people that are still employed by me today.
Yeah, that's great. And it also just lets you, if you find someone in your life who you're talking to, family, friend, whatever, that's a good person that you want to bring in but don't have their experience, it just gives you a way to offer them that opportunity of somebody that you think would be great to have in your organization. It's a way to hook them saying, hey, look, I'll get you in. Let's do this. So yeah.
And And you know what? To piggyback off of that, anyone who starts an ambulance company, I guarantee you somebody's going to call you, whether it's your sister or your brother, and say, hey, your nephew's looking for a job,
Uh,
or your like two of my first employees were my nephews because they're like, hey, are you hiring? I'm like, well, they have to be certified, but if they're serious, I'll put them through school. And
yeah.
then now I'm not looking on Indeed, and I have actually nephews or friends that have sons and daughters that now there's more of a responsibility on their shoulders because they represent somebody. So
Uh,
I know I have somebody that's always going to be there on time. I could call their mom or dad,
uh,
but again, there's a level of seriousness with that because they represent someone else that I have a personal relationship with. I guarantee you that anybody that they are going to have that phone call, they're going to get that phone call from some
yeah.
family member saying, "Hey, can you put little Johnny in on the ambulance?" So
Yeah,
yes, that happens a lot.
100%. Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, especially when you're driving around with a billboard, and it's an ambulance everybody's gonna see.
Yeah. And people love that. And what better feeling to that little Johnny's gonna get when he's at a Chick-fil-A and somebody stops him and says, "Thank you for your service,"
Yeah.
and he doesn't even realize the level of importance that he's carrying around on his shoulder now. You
It's just
know,
one of those where you're automatically put on a pedestal just by the vehicle you're driving and the profession you're in. Yeah.
yes, a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of free coffee that comes with it. There's just a lot of perks because people respect what we do.
Yeah.
Um, they know that we're here to serve, and we're doing what people don't want to do. We're taking care of the sick, we're taking care of the ill, we're taking care of the less fortunate. We get paid very well to do it, but again, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with the customer service that we're providing.
Yeah.
And so it's a great opportunity. Again, we get to own ambulances. I love every time I say that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that's one of the kind of the beginning perks that, forget everything else. That's a part of the industry that you kind of are signing up on and the prestige you're signing up for when you get into this industry.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah.
and it can grow as big and small as you want. You remember I don't know if you remember. I told you this the other day. I was like, "Hey, I got a friend of mine who owns an ambulance company, and he has 28 trucks in
Yeah.
Philadelphia."
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to him today. He's at 34. Just wanted to draw that. I was like, "Let me."
He's on that path to 2.4 billion, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, he read that article too. I'm like, hey man, you might want to 20 million. So 34 ambulances, I mean, that's amazing. He started just like me, a firefighter, just with the EMT basic, and he grew his fleet from one truck to 34. So if he can do it, anyone can do it,
Yeah.
you know. So
All right. Well, I think that's the perfect way to end it. So, if anyone has any questions, you can ask them. But just as a while, you've got about 30 seconds while I finish it. So, if this is your first time here, we have webinars going back months now, where we're on here every single week. We're providing content, and we'll be here. And so you can go onto our YouTube page; they're all there. We've also are going to continue to be here every week. So if you have questions, you can keep coming week over week. Also, we have our 101 course online live, so that's completely free. If you just want to do kind of a quick crash course on our website, you can go to our courses and just sign up for that right now. And then we've got events throughout the year where we'll be traveling around in different parts of the country. So if you're looking to meet us in person, just let us know. Sign up for one of those free happy hours in whatever neck of the woods you're in. And then just as a last note, if you're trying to get into is that the video?
you want to see it?
Yeah.
This, guys, is a video that we're going to show. I'm going to try to put it on the screen. And I want you guys to pay attention to all the different ambulances that are literally while they're sitting there, because they're probably at the location, but they always make you stage like a mile away from the actual disaster area, and they'll call you in. But the lineup that we're going to see are all people that are getting paid while they're sitting there. So let's see how close I can put that. Is that working? Let's see here.
It's
Oh, wait,
showing.
I kind of got out of it. I apologize. Let's do that again. I'm going to do this. And how's that look?
That's working right there. Yeah. Wow.
Look at all those different ambulances, and those are all privately owned.
Yeah, that's
That
crazy.
is
A
crazy.
whole 30-second video of miles of private ambulances and all those guys getting paid,
Two,
$200 an
yes,
hour to sit there.
just to sit there, and
Yeah.
they're waiting. And so that's exciting,
Yeah.
and having your fleet on there, and if they call you for three trucks and you can deploy three trucks, whew,
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly. I'll go sit in that line. I'll drive down right now. Here. Uh, perfect.
so
Well,
it looks like you have a question, no?
oh, no, that's the link to our one-on-ones. Yeah. So,
Okay.
but yeah, for anyone who's looking to get into the space, find about those opportunities, you can work with either with Hans and I, whether it's setting up your first business or for trying to acquire an existing one, all kinds of ways you can work with us. So just reach out to our team. Info@routeconsultant.com is the easiest way to find us, and we can answer your questions from there. Other than that, thanks everybody for being on here. Hans, thank you as always for being here to help provide all this experience for everybody.
No worries. Thank you always for having me. I appreciate it.
Perfect. All right, Hans, see ya, and we'll talk again next week. And thanks everybody who's here, and hopefully we will see all of you next week as well.